Go.
Okay, so gonna try to do a 2 or 3 part series on how to construct acrylic aquariums or sumps or any other thing that you're trying to build. The purpose of this is to really highlight some of the areas that often get missed in other videos and kind of gloss over some of the more important aspects that are critical to get a really nice looking joint and a really solid piece of equipment that you can be proud of. It's certainly a lot cheaper to make tanks and sumps and whatnot yourself, and I think with a little bit of practice and some knowledge, hopefully that you'll glean from this video, we'll be able to get you on the road to making these things. So I guess first thing we'll start off is with some of the stuff that you need to effectively do this. There's not a lot of equipment that's necessary, nor is it very expensive, but it is critical to getting success, especially as tanks get bigger and the acrylic gets thicker. How precise your joints are is paramount to have some access to decent tools. So can you see these here?
Yes.
So first and foremost, the most important tool by far is a decent square, an engineering square. This one is made with stainless, brass, and wood, and it's been through hell in a handbasket, but it is square. So I use this for setting up my jigs, setting up my saw blades, setting up the router. It is paramount that your blades are square to the table and that so that you're making decent joints. I have the Stanley cheaper square. Again, these are about $10, $11 Amazon. It's really worth having it because you'd be quite surprised where you think something is square and actually it is not. So this is simply a bigger version of that. I've got a stainless steel ruler that I use. This is nice because the measurements don't start at the edge of the metal, they actually start a little bit inward. So that's good again for precision, because as the edges get beat up, you're not measuring as precisely. Simple tape measure. I've got these Gorilla blocks, or push blocks, or bench dog push blocks. This is to feed stuff through the table saw. So it's got this really kind of sticking rubber on the bottom, and they're angled in a way so that you can push through sheet goods on the table saw and really keep it against the fence so your cuts don't wobble. I've got an assortment of spring clamps. These are Home Depot jobbers. You're literally $2 or $3 a piece. I've got some more expensive ones. These are Bessie clamps. They really don't work. They work about the same as the Home Depot guys. They have these plastic jaws, so they don't really grip material as much as you'd like them to. You really have to hurt them. But that's actually good for us, because I'll show you later that we're clamping stuff to keep it in position, but not nearly, or not really keeping it stationary. We want to be able to move it a little bit. I have a big, beautiful Delta Unisaw, which is basically a table saw on steroids. So I can make big, beautiful cuts, but you don't necessarily need that. You can do it with a contractor saw or a lower budget saw. You're really going to want to have it so the saw's not going to move though. The bigger acrylic sheets are really heavy, and that friction on the table can cause the saw to move. So either bolt it down to something. A lot of times when you want to get some anti-vibration, I've seen people mount their saws to a table and then weight the bottom of the table with sandbags or something similar to that. The other big tool you're going to need is a router. You can absolutely, I really don't think you can do this stuff without a router. You certainly can by hand scraping and whatnot, but that's not really what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm a big proponent of, get the right tools. I've got a router mounted in the table here. This is a nice fancy lift that goes up and down with some tools, but you certainly don't need that. If you had a big, you could make a table out of plywood and simply cut a hole in it and mount your router underneath it. You don't need a big, expensive, you know, piece of wire fence. The way we're going to cut and polish and finish this acrylic, you can use just a piece of aluminum or something as a fence to run the material along. The other things I want to cover, you need some applicators. Just go to Tap Plastic. They have two kinds. They have a really narrow needle, the opening, and they have a bigger one. Always get the bigger one. The bigger one, when you turn it over, the solvent will come out, and you just, you know, always, you want to kind of err on the side of more solvent than less solvent, especially when you're starting out. Safety glasses, key. Your acrylic, cast acrylic kind of cuts off in flakes, and it's not really messy, but you don't want to get a piece of hot acrylic in your eyes. Now, the last thing is router bits. Now, I've got a couple router bits. I don't know if you can see these. Dawn, can they see these deals? So, you could get by with one single bit. This is a flush cutting bit. So it's got this ball bearing that runs along a surface. So if you ran it along a template or something, or in our case, if you have the wall of the aquarium and the bottom, the way we build it, there's some overhang on the bottom, but when you come with this acrylic bit, it will shave it flush with the face of the aquarium. So this is just a two-bladed straight bit. There's two flutes, 1, 2. This is kind of the same thing, but this is a solid carbine spiral bit. This is an expensive bit. You know, this is about $20. This is about $60. This is an Amana. 2 ball bearings on top, and these kind of are better for cutting thicker acrylic. They get the material out of the way a little more. This, I just bought another straight flute bit for this set of series of aquariums I'm going to build now. And then I just picked up this, and I'm pretty excited about it, but we're going to see how it looks. The quality doesn't seem to be all there. You know, there's a little gap there on how these blades have been attached. I suppose it's not too critical, but this is, you can see, is 3 flutes instead of 2. So you've got, help me out with my math, 33% more. 33% more cutting area, so it'll leave less grooves in the acrylic. And lastly, I have an acrylic cutting blade. It's just a laminate blade. This is a Freud. You're looking at about 60 bucks, Home Depot. 80 or 90 tooth. And the difference between a normal saw blade, the teeth on a normal saw blade are both angled opposite directions. So they cut. This one has a flat blade, flat tooth, and then the next one is actually slightly rounded, so it's beveled on both sides. And it gives a good clean cut, and they're not too expensive. You're talking, I don't know, $50 or so. So saw blades, router bits, square bits. This is a really handy tool. This is a mortise gauge, but I use this all around, all the time in the shop. I don't know where I got it, but basically you can set the depth, you know, wherever you want it. It can scribe a line. That's the mortise aspect of it. But sometimes I will use it to make sure that I've got something level to the edge. So I'll set it here, then I'll go over here and say, okay, push it back, and now I can see that it's my surface is square. That will be useful. And the last thing is some kind of right angle jig. Now I have this big one that I built up because I'm building a 4-foot by 8-foot aquarium, so I want to have something that will span the entire sheet. And what we will use this for is we will have the side of our aquarium, and then this is the other side. I can actually clip the acrylic to it and keep the acrylic at a right angle. So again, very critical that this is indeed perfectly square. You do not want to start out your plans with something. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, my lovely wife. You can see that it is perfectly nuts on square to the table. So with that, I think we'll call it good. And then the next video we'll do some cutting and how to go about doing this, because I don't make a lot of videos. Okay, shut it down. Let's see what